Welcome back to the Digressor. That was once again Come Around by Moon King, my new intro and outro. I will be announcing that at the beginning of each episode, probably, for copyright stuff. Anyway, yeah, I know I said in my last episode I was going to do my next episode on my next day off, but stuff happened and it's like 2 weeks later and here we are. Okay, so, yeah, the weather's been really bad here and I've been kind of down, like sick-ish, and like sometimes I was sick, sometimes it was just too cold and I was just like bundled under the blankets. I'm like, I don't want to move. So, there's a lot of that. And then, uh, so I'm off today, and it's the end of the day. I could have done this earlier, but again, blankets. Um, but I realized, you know what? I better do this. I put it off long enough. This is part 2 of the trilogy I talked about. Um, you could probably, you probably saw the title of this, so there's no point, like, making it longer to tell you what it is. Can you tell I improvised this? See, my last episode was my favorite albums, and it wasn't complete. Like there, after I did the episode, I was like, "Oh wait, I forgot this and this and this and this and this and this." But like it wasn't a complete list. It was just like me talking about music I like, and that's what this one is too. Like because even like as I was preparing, because I made these lists weeks ago, and as I was preparing to do it today, I went through and I kind of sorted them out like in the order I wanted to put them in. Again, I'm not ranking them. I'm not saying like this, first one I say is my favorite and then my least favorite. It's just I just put them in whatever I thought would be like better presentable. And I also split it into two. The those my favorite soundtracks. I forgot to say that. Um, I split it into two categories. There are the soundtracks that are like music inspired by like with the songs, like actual songs, like various artists, and then there's the scores. That's like the instrumental music. So like there's two completely different kinds of soundtracks. Like some movies have two different soundtracks. One with the music that were like scored by the composer, and then the other soundtracks, the music from it, like popular music. But the I tried to with the scores one, I was going for movies, but I was also going for composers. It was kind of a mixed bag there. The songs one, I was trying to simplify this. I put top soundtracks, scores, and songs. So like, yeah, I mean that's technically incorrect, but you know what I mean. So like that, I just went by which ones I like legitimately liked, and it's again not complete. I actually in preparation of this episode, I actually doubled the list. Like literally, I was like, "Wait, I forgot this and this and this and this," and so I literally that's when I made the split. I was like, I'm going to separate them into two groups, make this a little easier. I was gonna do like I did with the favorite albums and have honorable mentions, but as I went through, I'm like, none of these are honorable mentions. Like these are actual things that I want to talk about. Like even if I don't like, I don't want to just go down the list and say, oh, I like this one and this one. Uh, Again, like I said at the beginning of the other one, I'm not like a musical genius. I don't know a lot about music, so I'm not going to like talk about like um you're not going to learn like music theory from me or anything. I'm not I'm I'm also not like an expert at anything that I'm talking about here. I'm just a nobody talking about things I like. So and again, it's incomplete. It's like the only reason this list isn't longer is because I had to stop myself. And I also, on the scores one, I literally limited myself to one album per composer. So I'm telling you, that was hard. All right, just to get them out of the way, I will start with the songs one. Oh, wait, actually, which one's shorter? Wait, this one's okay, that one has 10, and which one has this? 6, 7, 8. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay, I will start with the songs one because it has 10, and the scores one has twice that. I mean, no, wait, no, has one more than that. I almost misled you there for a second. And honestly, the scores one was harder to do because I, again, limited myself to one album per composer, which was really hard. I will get to that when I get to it. Okay, let's get. The first one, uh, I had to put this, like, this is literally, like, this is the first soundtrack I added to this list, like, like 2 months ago when I first thought of this. Moulin Rouge. Like, yeah, how could that not be on this list? It's like the first musical I actually enjoyed. I mean, of course, now I really like musicals, but at the time, I was when I heard musicals, I was like, ugh. But now I love them. Like because of Moulin Rouge, I think it's like it was like the gateway musical for me. I watched it so many times I could literally quote it word for word. Maybe I don't know. I haven't seen it in a while. I probably can't do that anymore, but I still love it to the point where it was the first soundtrack I added, and it's the top one that I put when I rearranged. I didn't actually move that one. That's the one I didn't move, and it's also the first one I'm mentioning here. It's just a great movie too. Like, so I think I remember seeing it when it came out. I think it was like 2001. Actually, let me look on the album. Moulin Rouge. Yep, 2001. I remember that. I remember when it came out. I watched it. We had it on VHS. I watched it over and over and over again. And I think it's the first time I've seen something like that. When I see like it starts 1899, I'm thinking, oh, this is a period piece. But then like there's like Queen and Madonna and like David Bowie song, and I'm like, what? This is not historically accurate. I do not appreciate this. Like, I actually enjoyed it. Like, once the initial shock wore off, I was like, wow, this is actually quite good. It's, it's like the first time I actually seen something like that, and now it's everywhere. Like you see, like The Great Gatsby had rap music in the 1920s. That yeah, that felt more out of place than them singing Material Girl at the Can Can place thingy. They sing Marilyn Monroe and Madonna. That makes more sense than what they did in Great Gatsby. But I'll rest my kit. Wait, no. But I digress. It's literally the name of my show, and I forgot the word. So moving on to the next one. Wait, where's? Oh, right. Space Jam. It's the first movie I ever noticed the soundtrack. I know that's going to sound weird, but you got to remember when it came out. I saw it in theaters. Wait, when did it come out? It came out in 1996. I saw it in theaters. I was 8, depending on when it came out. Yeah, I was really young. So, yeah, this is the first time I really noticed a movie soundtrack because there was so much music packed into this. It's like a song is constantly playing. And I actually remember the exact moment I was like, wow, I wonder if you can find this music somewhere. And it was the credits. Because usually in the credits, there's like one or two songs playing. Because like the credits are so long, the song ends and another one starts. But like, they pack so many songs into the credits, like it just kind of they kind of overlap. Like it doesn't not overlap. Like they don't play a full song. There's like I don't remember. There was like five or six songs played in the in the credits, and like they would play like part of one and it would fade out, and then the next one would start. And I'm like, wow, there's so many songs they couldn't fit them all on here. And yeah, but there's only 14 songs on the album, so yeah. Some of them aren't even available on Spotify. I hate when that happens. All right. Oh, this next one. Oh, I love it so much. I literally, this was like an entire era of my life that was dedicated to this movie and soundtrack. And now that I've prefaced this section with that, it's going to be embarrassing when I say what it is. I will say that when I tell people how much this movie means to me, or it meant to me, it still means a lot. It meant a lot more back then. And the soundtrack, they like look at me funny, like that movie, really? And I'm like, you wouldn't understand. Bridge to Terabithia. Um, yeah, it was a different time. 2007, I think. Yeah, it was a different time. And with that, I say moving on to a movie that came out in, wait, let's see. This is by far currently the oldest soundtrack on this list. Currently, 1984, we get Purple Rain, which I didn't see it till 98. So, you know, I also wasn't born when it came out, so there's that. I couldn't have remembered it when it came out, but I also had all that time to watch it. I was yawning. Also, kind of embarrassing to admit that even though I watched this in 1998 for the first time when I was 10, it was my first time hearing about Prince. I thought he was a character in a movie. And coming to find out, he was real. It's a great movie. I think it was biographical. Part of me hopes not, because there's that part where like his father commits suicide in front of him, and I'm like, I hope that didn't happen to him because that's kind of traumatic. And he like recreated it in the movie, so like that would be like double traumatic. So I'm hoping it's not biographical. That's just like an urban legend. I kind of don't want to find out actually. Oh wait, what's the next one? Going back to I think is this 2001? I think it's 2000. 2000. Oh brother, where art thou? Ah, yes. This is a movie that got me into not really into, kind of interested in. I don't know what the kind of music is called. I think it's bluegrass. I don't know. I haven't listened to this music in a long time, but like the music and the album. I used to listen to it a lot when it came out. Like I know Big Rat Candy Mountain's on there, and like there's a lot of kind of like there's some hymnals on here. Wait, there's two versions of Man of Constant Sorrow. Oh wait, Soggy Bottom Boys is listed as an artist. Do they have more? They can't have more. Wait. Oh, okay. There are three. Wait, there are. No, wait. Okay, that's a playlist. It's Soggy Bottom Boys Radio, which is more music like that. The essential folk music. The essential folk, and there's Soggy Bottom Boys. There's Bob Dylan, Simon and Garfunkel, Joni Mitchell, Nick Drake. All right, so that's not what I had in mind, but hey. And so I see. What movie did this come out in? I mean, what year did this come out in? 2005. This came out 2 years before Bridge of Terabithia. And it has the same actress, Anna Sophia Robb. I'm sure there's somebody listening to this going, "Oh, I know what movie that is." But yeah, let's see if it's still recording because I switched tabs. It's still recording. Good. Uh, because of Winn-Dixie. Which, okay, this is another important one to me for like different reasons. It's kind of a calming movie. It's one of the best film adaptations I've seen of a book because like it's one of the most faithful. There are two movies I think are probably the most faithful film adaptations, and because of Winn-Dixie, is probably the more faithful of the two that I'm going to talk about. There's another one coming up that actually there's three. The other one is uh, Chronicles of Narnia, which is the Lion Original Wardrobe, which is also a very faithful adaptation. And I didn't even consider adding to this list, which now I totally would have. But yeah. But get to the other faithful adaptation later on. But because of Winn-Dixie, if you read the book, okay, this is very interesting. It's a very faithful adaptation. Everything that happens in the movie happens in the book. They don't add anything. They just move it around. It happens in a completely different order, but it doesn't change the story. It's really interesting because I saw the movie like 100 times, and then I came across the book, and I was like, oh heck yeah! And I started reading. I'm like, wait, this is this. And I went ahead. I read the whole book, and I was like, okay, that's the same things. It's just told out of order, and it's like someone misremembered the movie and wrote it down how they remembered it. Both are very good. I highly recommend both of them. But yeah. Um, but like, because of Winn-Dixie, it's a very calming movie. Like there's no antagonist. There's no like ah. It's there's not really a plot. As weird as it sounds. Um, like India Opal, that's has her name in the movie. She comes across this dog, names it Winn-Dixie, and they just do stuff. There's not really a plot. They just go around town doing stuff. And so, I mean, I guess that's probably why they can change things around and like move them from one place to another, from the book to the movie, and it doesn't really affect anything because you know it's not really a plot. It's just stuff happens, but it's done really well and it's kind of calming. Like I haven't watched it in a while. I probably should, but the music is amazing. And actually, even if Anna Sophia Robb wasn't in both this and Terabithia, I would consider both soundtracks to be equal because they feel the same, like different but the same. Like I don't know, like because of when because of Terabithia. That's a crossover I want to see. uh, Terabithia has kind of a fantasy vibe. I mean, because it's a fantasy movie. Um, well, it's a realistic movie with fantasy elements. They use their imagination, and so it has like a whimsical fantasy feel. And because of Winn-Dixie has, it's like the same but not fantasy. It's kind of like a small town feel, if that makes sense. They like both soundtracks feel the same, but they're different. I don't know. This is why I say I'm not an. I preface this by saying I'm not a music expert. If I knew what I was talking about, I could very clearly articulate what I'm trying to get across. Clearly, I cannot. Therefore, I am moving on to the oldest soundtrack on this list, on the songs playlist from 1969, Yellow Submarine. This was actually me wanting to just pick one Beatles movie because I liked all the Beatles albums and movies, and I knew I had to pick one. I mean, I could have put them all the movies, but then it would just be my top Beatles albums and movies, and I didn't want to do that, so I just picked the Yellow Submarine because it has Yellow Submarine, and it also has All Together Now, and All You Need Is Love, Self Holes, the yeah, all of these songs. Like, if you actually watch it, it's like a very surreal movie. It is like the most Beatles movie ever because it's the Beatles. But I heard that they were thinking about doing a CG remake, and I'm like, no, can you not? You cannot recreate the Beatles. Only the Beatles could do that. Don't try to recreate the Beatles. Moving on. Okay, I know this next one cheats because I said I'm only doing one Beatles album. I am only doing one Beatles album. I also said don't recreate the Beatles. This next album is Across the Universe. It's a musical, based on the music of the Beatles in the style of Mamma Mia. It's a jukebox musical, basically. So basically contradicting everything I just said. It's also from 2007. Wait, yes, 2007. It is a great movie. I cannot believe that I'm saying this, but a couple of these songs are actually better than the originals. Please don't hang me. I have had people mad at me when I tell them what songs I think are better than the original, and they were like, "Oh, those are fighting words." I'm like, "I know, I'm so ashamed." And, all right, so I got two more on this list, and I know I'm probably the only person that likes this movie, much less the soundtrack, from 2001, Josie and the Pussycats. I know everyone sees it as like this over commercialized pop, like over the top pop music movie, and it was just overdone and blah blah blah. But if you actually watch it, actually, I rewatched it. It was on HBO Max. I think it still is. I mean, it should be. I mean, HBO Max is only a year old. Why would they take anything off yet? I'm sure they have, but why would they take that off? Because I'm sure I'm the only one that's watched it. But anyway, I rewatched it because I remember liking it. but I really remember like a few things. Then I watched it again. I'm like, why was this movie so hated? It is really good. It has a very good message. It's talking about like putting in like hidden messages in the music and like brainwashing society into like making them want stuff. Like they put like hidden messages in the music, so like you hear like a voice like, "You want McDonald's Big Mac? Nike shoes are the best." And suddenly you're listening to music and you're like, I want a Big Mac." Yeah, and that's like the whole plot of the movie. Or like Josie and the Pussycats, like they're a small town garage band playing in bowling alleys, and they get offered a contract, and they find this conspiracy theory, and they're like, "What do we do?" And it's like really good. I actually really enjoy it. I'm surprised. I'm sure if like people were to rediscover it now, it would be a huge hit. I kind of understand why it wasn't well received back then, but like it's one of those things that like it definitely aged well, and it should be looked at again. And the last soundtrack in the songs list. Wait, how long have I been recording? Uh, 25 minutes. Okay. So for the last song, with the last album, soundtrack, movie on the songs list. Okay, so you don't necessarily have to be a fan of a movie for the soundtrack to be good. Like the movie could be garbage and the soundtrack could be amazing. That's not to say that I think Twilight's a garbage movie. I know a lot of people hate it. I like Twilight. Um but here's the thing. I don't like the plot or the characters or any of that. I like the setting and like the atmosphere and the feeling of the movie, if that makes any sense. And I think part of that is the music. You could you could literally take out all the characters and just take all the people out of Twilight and just have like the same like camera motions and stuff, and I would still enjoy the movie just from like the atmosphere and the setting and the music. That would like honestly that would improve the movie. Just take everybody out of it and just leave everything else. uh, yeah. But Twilight is actually a really good soundtrack. I saw it in the library. I said in the last one that I would go to the library and just rip CDs onto my computer, and this was one of my thought. I'm like, you know what? Screw it. I don't care. And I got home and I looked and I saw it had Muse as the first song, Paramore, and it had Linkin Park, and let's see, Collective Soul, Paramore again, and it's like I know these people. I mean, not personally, but like I love these people. They're the bands, the music. And it's like every song on the soundtrack is so good, and it does not. Okay, so like Twilight does not deserve this good of a soundtrack. I mean, it's an okay movie. I don't hate it. I'm not one of those Twilight haters. I actually like the series. I watched all no, 5 movies because they split the last one because of course they did. I watched them all. Uh, they were okay. The soundtracks on all of them are they they all have really good soundtracks. The Twilight Saga does not deserve this good of a soundtrack. All of the soundtracks are good, but this one's the best. I looked at the soundtrack for Breaking Dawn Part 2, and I'm like, oh, come on! This one's good too! uh, so, like, yeah. when the soundtrack's better than the movie. Alright, that's it for the songs tab. I'm going to the score. Now, the first one. Actually, you know what? I'm going to put an intermission here because this is technically I don't know how long this is going to be. This is the halfway point in my list thingy because I had two lists and I've just completed one of them, so I'm gonna break right here. And I'm back, even though it's literally a split second for you. So, yeah. Uh, my throat was getting a little blah, so no, that implies something else. It was getting dry. Yeah. So I gotta drink of water. Um, and then I kind of edited the everything you just listened to. So, yeah. I just realized my hello at the beginning was it was distorted. It was weird. It was like I can't reenact it because it's not a human sound that was made. So I backed the audio up further than I would have and hid it in the music. So yeah, I didn't have to give that information out, and I just did. Uh, anyway, I just hit the mic. Onto the score section of these soundtracks. The first one is a soundtrack to a show that probably no one's heard of, or at least not very many. I don't know that many people that have heard of it. It's a TV series that ran in the late 80s to the mid 90s. It was amazing. It's called Road to Avonlea. It's actually technically part of a bigger series called the Anne of Green Gable, the Sullivan Productions. It was a Canadian uh, production company. They have a website called Gazebo.tv where you can watch all of their stuff. They have a bunch of like period dramas and stuff. And Road to Avonlea, it's like Little House on the Prairie, but um family friendly. I'll just say that. It's it was very family friendly. I will just say that. I watched A Little House on the Prairie. That that's not family friendly. Don't know why they showed I don't know why they showed that to us. I got traumatized by Little House on the Prairie as a kid. But Road to Avonlea it's really good. And the music is um also really good. It's takes place in like the early 1900s on Prince Edward Island in um Canada, and yeah. And on that kind of note, the I okay, so Cider House Rules. Here's the thing about that. No, this is the next one, by the way. I I've seen it. I know I've seen it. I distinctly remember seeing it. I couldn't tell you anything about it, but I remember the music stuck with me. When I hear the name, let's say Cedar House Rules, Cider House Rules. Wow, see, Cider House Rules. Wow. Um. Oh yeah, this is I'm gonna talk about the composers. Back up a little bit to Road to Avonlea. That came out in a lot miles higher, 1990, and it was Don Gillis. Nah, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how to pronounce his name. And he has a lot of that. Wait, is he still around? I was gonna say he's probably not even around anymore, but his latest thing is 2015. But yeah, did a lot of those kind of things, period dramas and stuff. And the Cider House Rules was, I think it was 99. Yeah, 99. Various artists. What? Oh, wait, no. Oh, various composers, I see. Rachel Portman. She was a composer in this movie. And, so, like, when I was looking up movies, I was like, I don't remember this movie, but I remember the music. And it was like kind of like an Avonlea feel. I think that's what drew me to it. Maybe, I don't know. But I really like the music, and I looked to see if it was streaming anywhere. Again, I will always push people to use Yidio. And it's called Yidio, Yidio, I think. Hang on, let me look at the app. Yes, Yidio. You can look up anything on there. And or like you can look up like any title that's streaming and see where it's streaming. Like for example, Cider House Rules. It's on Hulu plus Cinemax. You have to have the Cinemax add-on. Prime Video with Cinemax. Max Go, this is Cinemax streaming. Google Play, which is rental. Amazon, rental. Vudu, rental. Um, Apple TV Plus, Cinemax. And HBO Max, which is the only place you can watch it without the Cinemax add-on or renting it. So I am going to watch this movie on HBO Max tonight when I'm done here. Oh, oh, ah, one of the movies that's one of the movies that's on the recommended. Okay, every time you look up a title on here, stream movies like Cider House Rules, and it's got a bunch of other movies. And this first one, oh, I haven't seen this movie in so long. Nell. I haven't. Was it Jodie Foster? Let's see. Yeah, Jodie Foster. Liam Neeson was in it. I'm getting distracted. Yeah, that was a classic. I don't remember the music in it though, so it's not relevant here. Anyway, moving on, we get. Wait, let me look through here real fast. I think. Hmm. Yes. Yes. It is right. This is true. Yellow Submarine is not the oldest soundtrack on this list because that was 1969. This came out in 1960. It's Bernard Herrmann, Psycho, Alfred Hitchcock. I just I love everything about the movie Psycho. I got obsessed with that movie, which now that I think about it, I probably shouldn't say on a podcast. Yeah, like I didn't get like that obsessed with it. Um, I'd watch it like multiple times a year. I also love the sequels. The fourth one's a little. The third one's my least favorite. The fourth one is decent. The second one is the perfect sequel to Psycho. When you hear they made a Psycho 2, you're thinking, what? But that's how you make a Psycho 2. Or, the Psycho 2, because there can only be a Psycho 2, not, there could be the Psycho 2, not a Psycho 2. Again, can you tell I improvised? Like, the music in this is, like, Bernard Herrmann was a genius. He, like, a lot of his music. Well, this was the first one that was really hard for me because it was either this or Vertigo. There was, I was like, oh no, it's this or Vertigo. I cannot, or Rear Window. I don't think he did Rear Window, actually. Let me see. Because I just automatically assume that he did all of Alfred Hitchcock's movies. Because, I just see them two together all the time. Let me see. Looking through his playlist. I mean, the things on the thing. It doesn't look like it. North by Northwest. Psycho. Okay. No, I don't remember when Rear Window came. I think it was the 50s, but yeah. Um, I was looking at Vertigo and Psycho, so it's a good thing I wasn't considering Rear Window because I consider those the Psycho trilogy. I mean, the Alfred Hitchcock trilogy. I know he had a lot of really good movies. Like all of Hitchcock movies were really good. Even Birds, like The Birds was like kind of it like if okay, Birdemic is basically The Birds now, and it's a B movie. It's bad. It's hilariously bad. And The Birds is it's okay. It's bad, but in a good way. I like it. I really, really like The Birds. It's it's a classic. And I know people get mad when I say it's a bad movie, but like it's not Vertigo. It's not Psycho. It's not Rear Window. It's kind of campy, especially like I'm sure at the time it was, it was different, but looking at it now, it was so campy. I mean, it is very campy, but it's still so good. All of his movies are good, but those three I consider to be the Alfred Hitchcock trilogy. And like Bernard Herrmann, like this was the first one that was hard for me to choose because Psycho and Vertigo, those two soundtracks are, they're iconic. And okay, so I'm sure. Okay, this next composer, I'm sure most people haven't even heard of. I hadn't seen. Like, I looked on her IMDb, and she didn't have a whole lot of credits. It was mostly, um, I don't remember. It was mostly this. Actually, let me look. Um, her name is Laura Karpman, and I think yeah, it's pretty much just the soundtrack that I'm going to talk about. It's like low budget stuff. I don't even know if it's low budget. It's just stuff I've never heard of. Anyway, so I was watching the Marvel animated series What If, and I was listening because I was thinking, you know, every episode was completely different. The soundtracks, the music in the soundtrack was really good, and like each episode, I'm thinking, you know, they had like a different composer, but no, Laura Karpman composed every episode, and yeah, they're all listed as individual soundtracks each episode because there's more than one song on each episode. I listed the one I added to the playlist was the first episode. Oh wait, where is it? Um, I'm on her discography, not my list. What if Captain Carter became was the first Avenger? That one was the first episode, and they're all really good episodes, and the soundtracks of them are really good. Did I hit record? I just realized I don't know if I hit record. I did. Okay. Oh. I didn't remember hitting record, and I was on a different tab, and I'm like, please don't tell me I did all this. So I've been talking for 13 minutes. I would have been so mad. I probably would have just scrapped the whole episode if I hadn't even recorded, if I hadn't even started recording. Anyway, back to back to the episode. So yeah, if you haven't seen What If, I highly recommend it. The music's great, the story's good, it's very unique. And this next one, okay, so there's two. Oh no. Okay, so there are three soundtracks I actually forgot. It's not that I forgot. Okay, this one I did. There's three I'm going to talk about at the end. Let me write them down real fast so that I don't forget them again. Do that real fast. you can send yourself messages on Facebook, and I just use that to send myself notes. I'm doing that. Brr, brr. Not Rick. Let's see. Da-da-da. And what was the other one? What was the? Oh, okay. Meh. Yeah, I could totally edit this out, but don't want to. I'm too lazy. I just want to shoot and upload. This is on a video. Okay. I've sent them to myself. All right. So this one, I kind of wanted. I'm kind of conflicted. I wanted to put it on my favorite albums list because I mean it's a soundtrack, but let's be honest, Tron Legacy is a Daft Punk album. I don't care what anyone says. um, it wasn't my introduction to Daft Punk, but it was the first time I really paid attention to them. I mean, because like everyone knows like all their other stuff, like um, but like they were always just kind of like, oh, there's Daft Punk. And now it's like, oh, Daft Punk. Oh, okay, I see. And that's when I like really started to pay attention to them. Um, the movie actually, I know a lot of people hate the movie. They say it was no, the original's better. Like the original's not that great. I watched Tron Legacy Christmas Day with my family in 2009. Wait, let me see. 2010. Okay, I'm sorry. I was wrong. I lied to you. Unless hey, soundtracks don't always come out when the movie does. And it was at the end of the year. I don't know. It was around that time. Anyway, so I I know a lot of people didn't like Tron Legacy. Like I saw it in theaters and I loved it. And I heard so many people saying the original is better. So back in my library days, they had both movies. This is back in like 2011, 2012-ish maybe. I rented both movies on DVD. I checked it out because library, and I watched the first one, Tron, from like 1980, I think, and then I watched Tron Legacy. And anyone who says that the original Tron is better than Tron Legacy hasn't seen the original Tron and are just trying to hate on Tron Legacy. That movie is so boring and is completely unnecessary to understand Tron Legacy. There are, there's a few Easter eggs here and there, like the son of the company. I mean, the guy who's in charge of the company is the son of the guy he had the company in the first one, and stuff like that. And like, there's references to it. It helps you understand the story a little better, but overall, I mean, they do a good job at explaining what's going on. You don't need the first movie. It could stand on its own, and it's really good. I really love this movie. It basically like revived Tron because now there's before like when there's Tron media, it was like based on the old movie, and now there's like I don't know how many Tron video games, and there's like an anime series, and yeah, like it's because of this movie. It like revived an entire franchise, or like I don't know, like started a franchise because there wasn't a whole lot of Tron media before. I don't know if you played Tron Evolution. I think that was the name of it. It was the first game I owned on Xbox 360. It was a long time ago, and it was free. It was like the games with gold thing, and it was the free game that month. And I was like, okay, it's free, let's try it. And it was so good. I was not expecting that, and it's because of this movie. The movie is so good, and the music is great too. So I don't know why anyone would say that this movie is not good. And so we get to James Horner, which he did a lot of great movies. He scored a lot of great movies. He unfortunately passed away a few years ago. He worked with James Cameron. He did the score. He did the soundtracks for like um the Aviator, and actually let me go through some of his albums here. He did. There, come on. Loud. Alright. The Amazing Spider-Man 2012. I didn't know he did that one. Karate Kid 2010 is that one. Spider-Man Chronicles. Okay, so he didn't just work with him. He didn't just work with James Cameron. Enemy at the Gates. Mask of Zorro. I didn't know he did that one. Deep Impact. That one's great. And the soundtrack that I added to my list was Titanic. He's done a lot of great soundtracks. I mean, I know that he did because I knew some of them off the top of my head. But looking through here, I'm like, did I pick right? But yeah, yes, I did. Titanic was a life changer for me. It got me into Celtic music. Even though technically I know people say it's not real Celtic music. It got me into Celtic music. I didn't say it was Celtic music. Don't at me. No, seriously, I had people get mad at me because I said that. I said that one time online. Titanic got me into Celtic music. It's like, it's not real Celtic music. It's just a movie soundtrack. It, I didn't say it was Celtic music. Like, I really liked the soundtrack and I wanted more. So I looked into the inspiration. And in fact, there are more than one Titanic soundtracks. There's Back to Titanic, which has the party in the basement. Um, and they're dancing and they're not supposed to be because, or quote unquote, not supposed to be because she's engaged to that jerk Cal. Yeah, so that's an actual band. They're named Gaelic Storm, and I only discovered. Well, actually, no, I discovered them separately. That one of my favorite songs of all time is called "Scallywag" by Gaelic Storm, and it's a really fast song, and I could sing it all by heart, but I won't do it because I'm gonna use copyright as an excuse because man. And then when I saw the Back to Titanic album, the basically the sequel soundtrack, it has okay. I saw that soundtrack and I saw Gaelic Storm is the band in the basement playing the music. I was like, what? And they say this music isn't Gaelic. At least that one is. Okay, so what Back to Titanic is see the Titanic soundtrack. Alexa was activated just now. What? I Shut up, Alexa. No, I thought. Okay, so I have Alexa on my. Stop it! I have that AI on my computer, and every time I say her name, it pops up. And just now, I don't know why it just popped up. I didn't even say her name. Anyway, the Titanic soundtrack, the one I added to my list, is the music composed by James Horner. It's the ones that you're used to. That they, My Heart Will Go On, which My Heart Will Go On actually used James Horner's music. People think that James Horner used Celine Dion's music, but she used his music, and it's a whole thing. But the soundtrack is his music that he composed for the movie. Back to Titanic is all the other music, and it's went back to the top. Let me go back down. Okay, so like the Irish Party in Third Class, Gaelic Storm. It's Alex Ragtime Band, which I think is okay to play. Oh yeah, I forgot I had headphones in. I put the mic close to my laptop, and yeah, nothing came out because it came through my headphones. But yeah, the portrait, Jack's luck, building panic, nearer my God to thee, which is the people on the deck. Comes Josephine in my flying machine. That's the one that they're singing. Um, My Heart Will Go On dialogue mix with scenes from like lines from the movie. Nearer my God to thee again. Epilogue. Yeah, see, like it's just like everything else in the movie. Like the soundtrack was James Horner's music, and then Back to Titanic was literally everything else. And then looking through his discography, I'm seeing there's another one. There's Titanic Special Edition with 28. What's this? What is this? Oh wait. Oh, it's both. Okay. I should have gotten that one. It's both albums. It's both soundtracks on one. It's 2 disc set. I could. Long ago, when I was still doing CDs, I bought the Titanic CD, and that's what got me. And that's the one that got me into Gaelic, and that was literally a life changer. Like I still listen to Titanic soundtrack to this day, and I didn't find out about Back to Titanic till my library days, and I was like, "What's this?" And I saw it, and I'm like, "Ah!" The special edition came out in '98. Had I known about it and got it, think of what else I could have done. Like, I mean, not that I really did anything. It's like I learned about different music, and I learned about that music. I would have learned about Gaelic Storm way before Scallywag. How did I find out about Scallywag? I think I found their album at the library, and that was the song that stuck out to me. Anyway, the next the next soundtrack is a movie that is by a composer named Sugiu Umabayashi. And if that name does not sound familiar to you, let me just read some of their discography because I am pulling it up right now. Fearless, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, Ghost of. I can't. Okay. So that is a popular movie, but I still don't know how to pronounce it. It's a popular game, Ghost of Tsushima. Tsushima. It's a PS4 exclusive. He did the soundtrack to that. Well, he also did the soundtrack to one of my favorite movies of all time, House of Flying Daggers. Yeah, that is. Let's see, what year did that come out? 2004. I didn't know it came out that long ago. Okay, so funny story about that. That movie was also kind of a life changer to me. Kind of. I just got a message from. Oh, okay. So I used to be against subs. Like watching a foreign film in its native language, I would have to watch the dubbed version because I don't want to read the subtitles. So we rented House of Flying Daggers on DVD when it came out, and I watched the dubbed version, and I was like, oh, this is really good. And I watched it a second time, dubbed. Like, yeah, this movie's good. Yeah. And then my sister came along and she was like, I want to watch it with subs. I was like, no, I don't want to watch it in Chinese. And she was like, oh, come on. I was like, oh, fine. And that was a life changing moment because I had seen the movie dubbed in English twice. And now I'm watching it in Chinese, subbed. And it's a completely different movie. I mean, like, visually it's the same movie, but dialogue wise, it's not it's not the same. Like they changed the dialogue to try to match the actor's mouth movements, and English and Chinese don't look the same, so they have to change the dialogue, therefore changing the story. And that's when I was like, wait a second, have I been lied to my whole life? Has everything I've been watching that was dubbed not actually what it was meant to be? Because the subbed version was actually way better than the dubbed version. I love the movie even better. It's, again, like I said, one of my favorite movies. and I don't think it's streaming anywhere. Because like I looked every few months and like I want to see it again. I love it. Let's see, House of. Let's see if anything comes up. House of nope, Flying Daggers. I can rent it on Google Play, Amazon, or Vudu. I don't want it, so no. If it's not on a streaming service I'm subscribed to, I don't watch it. Yeah. So there was a K-drama that I watched recently called It's Okay to Not Be Okay. And it had the actually let me back up a bit. I watched Squid Game and everyone told me to watch it dubbed because you don't want to watch the subs, but I knew better. I watched the subs. I watched the subs and I enjoyed it better than I have a bunch of my friends that watched the dubbed version, and they're like, "Yeah, the lips didn't match up at all. Like it did not. I didn't like it." Yeah, in order to make them match up, they have to change the story. So yeah, watch the sub version. It's better. So after I watched that, I wanted to watch. Wait, why is my screen dimming? My screen dimmed. Why is my screen dimming? My my laptop's dying. Uh, Wait, how far am I from the end? Oh, so I got a ways to go. I've got 4 more and then 3 more. Anyway, um, I'll try to hurry. Wait, how long do I have? Does it say how long I have? 15% remaining. It doesn't say. Uh, okay. So I wanted to watch more Korean dramas, and Emery told me about It's Okay to Not Be Okay, and by default, it had the dubbed version. And I was like, no, 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 no. Get that away from me. And I put on the subs. And I enjoyed it. It was great. I watch an episode a night for 2 weeks because there's 16 episodes. And yes, 2 nights I watched 2 episodes because I wanted to. Okay, I wanted to get it over with, but I didn't want it to end. So that's why I watched 1 episode a night because I wanted to just binge it all at once. But I loved it so much. I wanted it to last as long as possible. And I highly recommend it. I also highly recommend watching it with the subs. Anyway, I digress. It's almost like I named my show that for a reason. Uh, my battery is running low. You might want to plug in your PC. So, yeah, that was kind of a rage-inducing 10 minutes. While I ran downstairs, grabbed the cord, and ran back upstairs, plugged my laptop in, and waited to see if all of that recording had been for nothing. Yet you'd think I would bring the cable up with me. But no. Because usually I can record a full episode before it dies. But not this time. Not this time. I I I literally breathed like a massive sigh of relief when my laptop came on, and basically it was like my laptop went to sleep. Like everything was just the way I left it. Like it literally cut off the recording right at the second my laptop died. So yeah, that was really scary. Anyway, moving on. The next one I wanted to do Hans Zimmer. He is one of the greatest composers, film scorers, and I really like him. He's a genius. I like him a lot. I can't praise him enough. His version of the William Tell Overture is my favorite, but that is not what this one is. I forget what he did that one for. Probably the Lone Ranger? I don't know. Um, okay, so Hans Zimmer has done a lot of classic movies. So many famous movies. Which one am I going to pick? Which one am I going to pick? One that probably not a lot of people have heard. Um, Honestly, I'm kind of biased picking this one because it was one of my favorite movies for a long time. Okay, this movie came out in, let's see, 2008. And okay, considering I said Because of When Dixie and Bridge to Terabithia were like super important to me and were like I was kind of obsessed with those movies for a while around that time. You'd probably be confused when I say that this was too. So I was in a very weird place at the time. Oh, I haven't even said the name of the movie. Frost Nixon. Unless I did say the name, I don't remember if I did say it or not. Frost Nixon. It's a period piece. It takes place in the 70s. I think it's the 70s. It's talking about Richard Nixon. You know, he has to resign because of the Watergate thing, and then David Frost does the interview, the famous Nixon tapes or the Nixon interview. It's famous. You know, the "I am not a crook" that interview. Yeah. They made it into a movie, and when I heard that they made it into a movie, I'm thinking that's going to be boring. I watched it. I was blown away. I'm like, wow, this is how you do a period piece. I love this movie. Or not a period piece. Based on a true story thing. I don't know. Um, I was surprised to see Kevin Bacon in it. Um, he hadn't really. I don't know if he'd been in a lot. The last thing I'd seen him in was Stir of Echoes, and of course, I don't know if he was like in a million movies between Stir of Echoes and Frost Nixon, and I just hadn't been paying attention. But yeah, I saw him in there as like an aide, and I'm like, oh hey, it's Kevin Bacon. What a surprise! And then a few years later, he was in um, X-Men First Class as the main villain. So he went back up. He went from a cameo aide person to the main antagonist of an X-Men movie within a couple of years. So I don't know. I don't know Kevin Bacon's career trajectory. I don't really follow him that much. I'm a fan, but not like a watch everything he touches fan, if that makes sense. I don't dislike him. Now that I think about it, probably shouldn't even brought up Kevin Bacon because I'm like a casual Kevin Bacon fan. Like when he pops up in a movie, I'm like, oh hey, it's Kevin Bacon. I don't go out to see one because he's in it. Anyway, moving on. I got off topic. I was supposed to talk about the soundtrack, but I forgot what I was going to say about it. James Newton Howard. He's also done a lot of great ones. He's another classic. This movie came out in 2012. You probably know what I'm going to say, or you probably don't, because you're probably not a geek like me, or nerd. That's what I meant to say. You're probably not a nerd like me, or maybe you are. Maybe that's why you're listening to this. Um, The Hunger Games. That is the other good film adaptation. They didn't get it perfect. Like they didn't follow. It's like with let's see. It's like with Because of When Dixie, where they didn't. It's not like a word for word adaptation of the book. Everything in the book is in the movie, just out of order, and it's kind of the same thing with The Hunger Games. It's in order, but no, pretty much everything in there is. They took some things out, like the mayor and his daughter and his family. They took that whole plot line out, which I was kind of upset about. But considering everything else they left in and added, they did add stuff to this. But it it was necessary because the books are from Katniss's perspective. She's the narrator. You find stuff out when she does. and once she enters the games, you don't see outside. You're with her the entire time. Which, if they had done that, that would have been fine. But what they did instead was you see outside the games. You see, you see President Snow in his garden, and he has a conversation with the game maker, and then you see like the announcers they're talking, and you see what the other people are doing, and like the District 12 and all that. Like you get more story. It's the same story, but more of it. And that's kind of what they did with the other ones. Like the Hunger Games series was really good. It was very well done. I love how they did it. I mean, obviously, it's not like a perfect word by word adaptation. Like, I don't think there ever has been or will be of any book ever. Of course, now that I said that, I'm gonna find one. um, Probably The Mist by Stephen King. That one actually goes further than the book. It covers the book and then goes further because the book it just kind of cliffhangers, and the movie has an ending which we will not discuss here. And in the Hunger Games movies, it's the same thing. They 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 tell the same story, but they add to it, and I love what they add to it, and it's really good. Um, I seen the first one. I've seen them all in theaters except the last one because I was in the hospital at the time. You can look back at my episode titled "My Health," and you can hear the story on that. Um, I was kind of upset because I've never seen an entire series in theaters. Its first run, and Hunger Games was going to be it, but then I ended up in the hospital. um, I just want to talk about that for a minute. Not the hospital. What's something I've always wanted to do. I want to see an entire series in theaters its first run, and what I mean by that is like an entire series, not like so I watched The Force Awakens, Last Jedi, and Rise of Skywalker in theaters. I watched that whole trilogy in theaters, but that doesn't count because I didn't see the other Star Wars movies in theaters. Oh, and I saw Rogue One in theaters. I saw. Ooh, wow! Now that I've seen a majority of Star Wars in theaters its first run, I didn't even realize that. Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, Force Awakens, Last Jedi, Rogue One, Rise of Skywalker. Yeah, that is 6 movies I've seen. And there are 10, 11 movies in the series, including Solo and Rogue One. And I mean, I wasn't born when the first trilogy came out. And so the only ones I didn't see in theaters after I was born was Revenge of the Sith and Solo, which that's not bad actually. Now I never really thought about it, but yeah, like the Hunger Games would have been perfect. Like, I've seen a good chunk of the MCU in theaters, but not all of them. Like, I've seen all of the Avenger movies in theaters. The actual Avenger movies. There's 4 of them. I've seen all of them in theaters. And I'd have to actually sit and think about which MCU movies I've seen in theaters. Last night I watched Spider-Man: No Way Home. Um, so there's that. The only MCU movie I have yet to actually see is The Eternals. That one just came out a couple months ago. I didn't get it. Didn't get to see it in theaters. I think it's coming to Disney Plus next month. I'm definitely going to see it then. Actually, I saw Shang-Chi on Disney Plus the day it came out on Disney Plus. I didn't get to catch it in theaters. I wanted to, but I didn't get around to it. But yeah, The Eternals is the only one I haven't seen. Um, I'm a big fan of the MCU. I try to keep up with that. Um, I actually the with the Disney Plus shows, I haven't watched the last couple episodes of Hawkeye. I always forget about them. But that's not really a big deal. Like with the Disney Plus series use unless like WandaVision was an exception. Like the internet was all buzz about that. Where like spoilers galore, so you had to watch it like at 3 a.m. when it came out. But like after that, like Loki and Falcon and the Winter Soldier, What If, I kind of I had to keep catching up. Like I'd miss a couple episodes. I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. And then I would watch them. I wouldn't watch them right away. And What If, I forgot about What If. I saw the first episode. I'm like, oh wow, that's good. And it wasn't actually until like a month ago. I saw somebody was posting about like the shocking ending that the shocking way they ended What If. And I'm like, oh, they ended that? Oh yeah, I forgot about that. And I just sat and I watched them all. They're like half hour each, and there was like I think like 9 of them maybe. And I just sat and watched them one after the other. And yeah, like so I'm mostly caught up with the MCU. I saw season 1 of Daredevil. I just realized I like this is like the hardest digress I've ever done in an episode. This should have been. I should probably crop this out and put this in an MCU episode. Actually, I will do that. Yeah, I decided not to cut it. I was under the impression that I had talked for like 10 or 20 minutes. But there's only like 2 or 3, so I was like, meh. Plus, I didn't see where I could cut it. It just kind of flowed into that, and yeah, and I wouldn't even know where to add it into another episode. Anyway, um, all of that to say, I've been wanting to watch an entire series the first time on its first run in theaters, and I almost did it with The Hunger Games had I not gone to the hospital. Anyway, we're down to the last 2 that I have down here because there are 3 that I couldn't add and 1 that I forgot to add. Um, we have for Danny Elfman. Ah, yes, Danny Elfman. He is also a classic. He has a distinct style. He is best known for working with Tim Burton. And I mentioned earlier that I'm a fan of Desperate Housewives. He did the theme. And even though Danny Elfman did the theme to Desperate Housewives, and it's one of my favorite shows, and I've watched every single episode twice. When I think of Danny Elfman, I do not think of Desperate Housewives. I think of this movie from 1990. I thought it was older than that. Edward Scissorhands. It is such a perfect movie for him, and like everyone involved, and in general, like I just like that movie so much. It's one of those movies I didn't see till later. I saw it. We had it on DVD in the early 2000s, and I thought it was a new movie. And yeah, my sisters were like, "Oh no, this is old." Yeah, they had known about it, but I learned I grew to love it. It's another classic that if you haven't seen it, you need to. It is, and the music just I consider it a winter movie, like a Christmas movie, even though it's not really a Christmas movie. And I thought I was weird for thinking of it as a winter movie, but like I'm looking at the soundtrack and there's snow on it. So I mean, I'm thinking I haven't seen it in a long time. I remember him like doing something with snow and ice, and I don't remember. But like, yeah, if you listen to the soundtrack, it just puts you in the movie. Even if you've never seen Edward Scissorhands, it puts you in that universe as soon as you listen to the music. Which, speaking of which, we're down to the final one, John Williams. Okay, when we're talking about soundtracks that are hard for me to decide on. John Williams is like the ultimate composer when it comes to movies. I knew he did some classics, like he did Jurassic Park, Indiana Jones. He did Harry Potter and like Close Encounters. He did like all of that. And I wanted to use Harry Potter in the Philosopher's Stone, but I'm trying to stay away from posting about Harry Potter currently because of certain controversy. So I try not to talk about Harry Potter too much. Um, I still listen to the soundtrack because nostalgia and stuff, but I didn't put it on my list. Instead, I scoured his discography, and this was by far the hardest one to pick from because he's still alive. He has so many good movies that he scored, so many albums, and I it was real. I okay, so there were several movies I actually because I could literally do a spin-off of this called my favorite John Williams albums soundtracks, and because wow, like I settled on a Star Wars: A New Hope, and that was hard to do. It came down between A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back, and Jurassic Park. I it's and Indiana Jones. See, like even now, I'm still debating on whether I chose the correct one because like they're just all so good, and he's uh but I chose A New Hope in the end because that's the one that started it all. That's the one that started the Star Wars saga. He did every saga film and of all the 9 Star Wars films. And it started with this one in 1977. I don't even have to look at the date. It was on my birthday, 11 years before I was born. May 25th, 1977. I was born on Star Wars Day. Just, 11 years too late. I could seriously do a full episode on John Williams. I said I could do a full episode on Taylor Swift. I can do a full episode on John Williams. I'm not even kidding. Now, I said there were three that I left out. There's one I actually forgot to do. I um wait. Actually, I think wait a second. Wait a second. I think I remember talking about it. No, I didn't forget about it. Okay. So, I I didn't forget about it. I was feeling guilty because like how can I forget about this movie that meant so much to me growing up and has like defined my life through nightmares. Pink Floyd The Wall. I struggled whether or not to add it as an album or a soundtrack. And that's what I remember now because I when I brought it up I was like I didn't know if I wanted to. I don't want to spoil the next episode, so I'm not going to talk about that yet. Well, that's what I struggled with. And so I have a friend who's like big into like Pink Floyd and stuff. And I was like, hey, what should I do? And she was like, it's an album. It was an album before it was a movie. The movie came out years later. And I was like, all right, it's an album. Technically, it's not a soundtrack. I mean, it's a soundtrack, but not. It's a movie. And now I'm talking about it on both, so it works. Now, the two that I wanted to add, but I couldn't because they're not on Spotify. The one on actually it's kind of funny how it works out because there's two. There's one under songs and one under score. Underscore. That was unintentional. Um, there's Rockstar. It's the movie with Mark Wahlberg, I think. It's a band called Steel Dragon, and there's a bunch of covers on on Spotify, but not the actual thing. Let's see. Rock Star. I think it came out in 2000. Rockstar, directed from Rockstar. 2001 film. Yep, Mark Wahlberg. And it's basically following the life of a guy who becomes a rock star, and it's from like the 80s, and it's actually really good. Like, even though the songs were made in like 2001, they actually sound like rock songs from the 80s, and yeah, like it was very well done. And then the other album that I couldn't add because it's not on Spotify. Let me look up. Let me look it up on on Wikipedia so I can see who did the album. There's no music. It doesn't say who did the music. Okay, I'll just talk about it then. What's Eating Gilbert Grape? That movie is really sad. It's from '93. Again, it's like because of Winn-Dixie is there's really no plot. It just stuff happens. It's just like following the life of these people in this city, like specifically Gilbert Grape and his brother Arnie, over the course of like a week, and it has like a tragic end. And I'm not gonna spoil it because I want people to watch it. Go watch this movie, and and the music is incredible. Like I wish it was on Spotify. I would totally listen to it. And well, what's great about this movie is, I mean, not just everything I just said, but like the cast. Like it's Johnny Depp as Gilbert Grape. It's Leonardo DiCaprio as Arnie before his Titanic roles. Juliette Lewis, Mary Steenburgen, Darlene Cates, which you probably don't know her. She wasn't very well known. John C. Reilly, Crispin Glover, like, yeah, like I'm surprised how many like big names are in here, and it's not that well known. Like I mentioned this movie sometimes, nobody's heard of it. Occasionally there will be somebody who's heard of it, but no, like everyone's like, ah, what's that? What do you think of Grape? His name's Grape. He's vegan. Ah. I wish those two albums were on Spotify because like the closest we have is some of the Still Dragon songs are covered on um on Spotify, and some of them are kind of good, but they're not the same. So those are the albums that I included as my favorite soundtracks. Again, it's incomplete because, again, I remembered some as I went. I made the list initially like a month or two ago, maybe a couple months ago, and even as I'm recording, I'm like, oh wait, this album. There is one more part to this album, to this trilogy. And you're probably wondering what it is because I've already done albums and I've done soundtracks. What could part 3 be? Well, you're gonna have to find out next episode, not week. I was gonna say next week. I fully intend to record next week, but I don't have the best track record at saying that. I even tweeted, "Oh, I'm gonna do an episode tomorrow," and then tomorrow comes, next day off, yeah. So yeah, I post it when I post it. As for now, that is the end of this episode. Have a good.